Hi everybody, welcome back to the final part 6 of my Floral Cotton Junk Journal series. So it's been a while since I've been on here on YouTube making a video. I have completed this journal, so I did it in the time frame that I wanted to. So I did 3 months, January, February and March. So I finished this off at the very beginning of April with my March pages. So this video I'm just going to go through how I finished it, and there's a sort of a flip through of the March pages at the end. So as usual, I go through the pages that I've got ready to fill, sort of like have a flick through to get a feel of what pages there are available and what kind of types of pages I have, like what papers I've got in there that I've already sewn in, and then I basically tip out all of my ephemera onto the table. So I've collected all these pieces in a box throughout the month, just sort of wang them in. Every time I find something I think, oh, that will work, I just throw them in the box. And then when I come to do my pages, I just tip them out all over the table and go through them. So I sort them into types of ephemera. So I sort them into large pieces that could work as like tip-ins or new pages, or large envelopes, anything large scale. And then I do things that could be used for backgrounds. So things like large images that I printed on sticker paper, which I can then sort of tear up and use as collage sheets. And then I've got a pile of pockets and journal cards off to the side too, and then sort of smaller things like stickers and smaller items you can actually see there on the right. So then I just go through them all and see, just kind of get a feel for how much there is, because some of this stuff I've put away right at the beginning of the month and I can't actually remember what they are. So these are the large pieces that I'm going to then find space for in the book. So I go through the pages and I find like a suitable place to put them in. This one was actually a list that I made of things I needed to get ready for my son when he used to go to nursery school, because every morning I had to assemble so many things, and at the beginning I was very nervous and I kept getting all confused. So I had that list right from when he started, but now he's actually finished and graduated and started school, so I don't need the list anymore, but I wanted to keep it to sort of remember all the hard work as a mum that I went through trying to get everything ready. These are all pieces I made for my Patreons in March. Some of them were digitals that you could download and print, and some of them were actual physical items that I posted to people. So these are going to go in. They're mostly going to be journal cards or pockets. And I didn't actually get around to using all of these pieces up because I print off like all the versions for my Patreons, and then I always do a copy for myself. But actually I didn't have full use of them this month. I didn't actually need to use them all, and you'll see later on in the journal that I just ended up shoving them all in a pocket. Not really quite sure what to do with them, but I obviously was very productive this month in terms of things that I produced. So just cutting things out now. These are my collage sheets, and yeah, this is one of the collage sheets that I made for Patreon. So cutting this out. This is on sticker paper because I remembered to print everything on sticker paper this month, so that I could easily just whack them in wherever I wanted to put them in. And I really like these drawings and doodlings that I did, and they were all done with I think I used watercolour, an indigo watercolour paint, just blobbed onto the page, and then I came back in with a white gel pen and sort of doodled all these patterns all over the top of them. And the whole month of March for Patreon was sort of based very loosely inspired by sashiko stitching, which is obviously the Japanese style of mending, darning type thing. So I was kind of doing a bit of research about sashiko during the month of March, and and all those drawings and patterns were all inspired by that. I'm tipping in here one of the covers from a Midori notebook. I treated myself to a new notebook this month because another video I did for my patrons in March was going through old sketchbooks and old notebooks. And I went through an old Midori MD cotton notebook, and I was like, oh, look at this, like feeling all the pages, all the crinkliness, and I sort of done a mix of drawing and journaling within it, and I really liked that effect. So then I thought, well, I'll just get another one. I'd quite like to do that again. So I'm actually doing that again in the MD cotton. And that envelope there is one of the pieces that I sent off to my top tier, my project post tier. It's a handmade envelope with all my design on it, which I used as a tip-in. This is a piece of sketchbook paper that I was just sort of faffing around trying out paints on. So that one gets added in. So as you can see, I'm doing my first stage is to go through all the large pieces and get them sort of tipped in as spare pages, extra pages, or pockets and things like that. Although to be honest, I didn't actually need any more pages. By the end of doing this, I had tons of pages that I didn't really have any journaling on, and so I didn't actually need any extra pages, but I was determined to kind of cram everything in as usual, so I did. That's my Patreon calendar going in, because I like to kind of look back and see what I did for the month, and that sits on a little notice board next to my desk throughout the month, so I can kind of keep track of all the bits that I'm doing. So then by the end of the month I don't really need it anymore, so it's quite nice to pop it in here. And then this was one of my downloadable printables I gave away as well. It's actually just a straight scan of a sketchbook page, a watercolour page that I'd just done. Filled the whole thing with paint, and then went over it again with the white gel pen and bits and bobs. And then I scanned it in, so I did sort of do a bit of alteration on it to make the colours sort of brighter. But it's basically a straight scan of one of my sort of sketchbook pages that I gave away as a collage sheet. And I think I probably could have done a better job of it. At this point, I know when I was filming this video I was actually quite tired. I think this is quite late at night, judging by the fact that I've got my dressing gown on. And I think I was just like, oh, I just want to get it done now, which is a shame because, you know, I'd worked so hard on all these pieces. But by this point I was really running out of time. It was quite a busy point at the beginning of April, getting ready for my son starting school, and my husband was coming to visit, so I was feeling quite rushed. So I was doing this quite late at night, and it was just a case of just whack it in, just don't think about it, just whack it in, just shove it on any old place. So in a way I feel like a bit like it would have been nice to spend a bit more time over it, but having, you know, finished it and gone back through and looked at it all, it's still nice, and I still really appreciate that I can see all of the designs I did on all of the pages, and it was still fun to do. But yeah, I did have a bit of a sort of junk journal funk whilst doing this, which I'll talk a little bit more about later probably, but yeah, I did feel a bit like I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I usually do, which is a shame, but that happens, you know, that happens with any sort of journaling or, you know, hobby. Sometimes you don't really feel it, you know, quite so much. But yeah, I'm still glad I did it because it's really nice now to look back through the pages and see everything, so no harm done. So all of the indigo pattern sheets I've just ripped up, they are available on Etsy, and I will put the link down below if you want to have a look at them, and you'll probably do a much better job than I have at putting them in your journals. I think also I realised at this point that I had tons and tons of pages and tons of ephemera, but I didn't really feel in the mood to do too much journaling. Now journaling is something that I'm not very good at. I don't feel all that comfortable doing journaling, memory keeping type journaling. Like, I know, if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm very good at having a rant and a good old, like, if you give me some sheets of paper, I can fill them up, no problem. I can just write any old nonsense down. But when it comes to like doing like nice scrapbook memory keep journaling, where you write down highlights of the day and put a photo down, I really struggle, to be honest, and I do have to really like force myself to do it in a way. I'm very comfortable whacking things on a page and doodling and slapping things down, like this bit, you know, I'm quite happy to do that really, like if there's no pressure and there's no like if I'm, you know, I'm in the mood for it, it's like I really enjoy doing this part of it. But then when it comes to putting the photos and arranging it nicely and writing a little bit about the day, I don't know why I struggle with it. It just doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know why. And that's actually the main reason I'd make these journals, is because I want to have those memories all kept safely somewhere, so that one day I can look back through them and see what we were doing throughout that month. So yeah. Don't know what that's about. Basically. This one here was my favourite sheet. I really enjoyed like using this pattern. And I was trying to think if I could somehow print this on fabric at one point. That might be quite nice, but I spent some of this month trying to work out how I could do that and whether it was possible to get fabric printed here in Japan, and I kind of struggled, to be honest, but it would look really nice on fabric, you know, as a bag or something, but I haven't managed that yet. But I'd say that's probably the most me of all the designs I did, the most sort of original kind of design. And that's onto pockets. So the pockets here are sort of a mix of the real thing, the pockets I actually made, because I made these on watercolour paper, and then I scanned them, and some of them I gave to my Patreons. So there's like a mixture of the real originals and then the actual printed out ones. So I sort of have double of everything. I think probably these pockets are one of my favourite things that I've made. I quite like the patterns on them, and the way that the edges look like folded down fabric on some of them. And I suppose when you think about sewing and darning and stuff, you're thinking about like pockets and patches and things, aren't you? So I quite like the way they sort of give you like a corner patchwork of, not patchwork, a corner patch effect sort of thing. So here we have it, the journal is completed, and I've got 3 months in here, January, February and March, and she's very chunky and floppy. So I think at some point I might do some sort of a closure just to kind of keep her not being quite so floppy when she's not being looked at. But yeah, very satisfying to see all those pages, and I'm really glad I did this. And even though at times, as I said, throughout March particularly, I struggled a little bit to kind of fully enjoy the process, I'm really glad I did it like this, and I would definitely do this again. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for April, but I will keep you updated, and if I make a new journal I'll be putting it up on here. But yeah, I really love these tabs. So I can flip straight to the start of March to show you the March pages. So I'm just going to go through them just slowly so you can see, because a lot of this final decorating, like the stickers and the journal cards, I did off camera. I think probably my camera ran out of battery or something. So this is like packaging from some alcohol hand gel I bought for my son, and it's Kimetsu no Yaiba is like a really popular anime at the moment with kids. So it was like one of the characters from the anime was an alcohol gel bottle. You see what I mean? And these are photos of the final obento box, like lunch box that I made for my son while he was at nursery school. On this page I've got pictures of my son jumping off the sofa trying to fly, and I also have a picture of some pencils we got for him with his name on to sort of start him off ready for school. And one of my sort of seasonal blossom stickers on the right there that I did for Patreon. Next page is my Patreon calendar. So I didn't really decorate this page, there's nothing much to add to it, it's just there for me to have a look at to see everything that I got done. This photo is from an afternoon we had after nursery school. We walked up with some friends to look at some momo blossom, which is peach blossom. And it was very beautiful, and I actually had a momo peach sticker that I'd made, so that went on the journal card here, so it matches. And this is the original, this is an original painted journal card, so that's actually watercolour paper. And I just stuck some little sweets we got on the back. They're like cakey type things. They're not mochi, they look like mochi, but they're not, but they're seasonal colours and patterns, so we got them to try. A bit too sweet for me, but they were still nice. And that thread actually on the top of the journal card is indigo dyed sashiko thread, because I did have a go at doing some actual indigo sashiko actually during the month of March, so that was really fun. And actually you can see it there on the top right. You can see what I did is when I finished the sashiko stitching, I scanned it and I made it into wrapping paper, so my patrons got things wrapped in sort of a sashiko print paper in March. And that's the actual sakura, the cherry blossom, from a nearby park, one of the photos. This page is very minimal. I didn't really put too much on it, but I actually really like it. All I did was stick a photo of like a little domestic scene on the left there, and then did a tiny bit of journaling, and I ended up putting the journaling on sideways, so I didn't want to cover up that lovely vintage paper. The journaling I did this month on the computer and just printed it off because I was like dithering about which pen to use and how to make it neat, and I just thought, well, I'll just print it this month, it'd probably be quicker. This is me journaling about the last day of my son's nursery school, so we took the standard doorstep photo. Yeah, and this pocket has got a journal card in. What's on the back of the journal card? I'll turn it over in a minute. I'm doing this voiceover later on, which explains why it's a bit delayed. Oh, it's got a photo of him outside his nursery school, sort of going in for his last day. I think I was rubbing that corner pocket to show that that's the actual original one on the watercolour paper. Didn't stick too much on the left hand side, just stuck some scraps papers down and a sticker. Now this thing here is all the library books that my son borrowed from nursery school in his final year. So you write down the title and when you borrowed it and who read it and when you return it. So it's quite a nice little record of all the books that he chose, and we read them all together at home. This is all the videos that I made for Patreon in March. I like to kind of print them out and keep them to show how much progress I'm making, how much work I'm doing. And that's just like a little colour palette I was doing at the beginning of the month, trying to work out which colours I was going to use for this month. These are photos from my son's graduation ceremony. I really like, I'm pointing at this because I really like the circle pattern in the background. I might do that again. Never tried that before, just plonk a sort of circular pattern behind and put other things on top. And that bit on the left is a bit of wrapping paper, I think, from some gifts we were given on graduation day. I think I use it further on, so I'll explain that when we get there. Another tag with some more indigo sashiko thread and the sticker on the front. So all the stickers were like seasonal things from March, like all the seasonal blossoms and things like that. Yeah, so this is it. I think it was, I can't remember what it was, rice or cakes or biscuits. I can't remember now, but we were given like a present from my son's nursery school, and that was the wrapping. And this is actually a little label from a tart shop, a cake patisserie shop, and we had one of those, and it was very yummy. That's photos of my son doing some painting on the decking, and the little clover paper is again more wrapping from more gifts that we received on graduation day. Just a little bit journaling about a day out with a friend to a park. No journaling on this side, just random bits stuck down, but still quite nice to look at. And then at this point I started to sort of run out of things to journal about. I ran out of photos and ran out of things to say, so there's actually a lot of blank sort of unused pages coming up, and I did think to myself, wow, maybe I could use them in April. That's not even a pocket, by the way, that's just stuck on. Could use it in April, but what I do, the way I work with my Patreon, is that I then do a new theme for each month. So the new theme for April has now produced April ephemera. So I'm just leaving these as they are, and this is all the spare stuff that I didn't even use, and I've just put it in that pocket just to keep it safe, and if I can think of something to use it for, I will, but otherwise I'm just keeping it there as a sort of a record, like a sort of a 3D physical sketchbook record of all the things that I got done in March, all the drawings and things. There's nothing on the back of here, no more, no journaling. I may feel like coming back and writing something on there at some point. But at the moment I'm just sort of moving on to the next month really. As I said, that's the sort of the list of things I needed to remember each morning, which I wanted to keep for posterity. That is the actual instructions from the Sashiko kit. So I bought a kit from the shop which is sort of pre-printed, and you just sort of sew along the lines. As an ice cream packaging, you get, every time you buy an ice cream here, you seem to get the same sort of branded packaging with this little girl and boy on, but it's very cute. I took my son for ice cream as a sort of like end of finishing nursery school trip for us, little outing. That's an envelope and another swatch card. So like I said, the packaging from my new Nolte planner and my notebook. And then behind there we have a couple of things. Tag from a Minecraft t-shirt my son got. He's really into Minecraft at the moment, so I sort of thought I'd pop that in because that might be interesting to look at in future years. And this is actually a menu. It's the last menu that my son had from his nursery school. So they're so wonderful what they do here. They have trained like cooks, chefs who know all about child nutrition, and they make sure everything's really balanced. Every meal's balanced. They tell you what the meal is, what the ingredients are. And then these ones on the right that I'm pointing at now, they're actually known allergens. So if you find that your child comes home from school with a poorly tummy one day, you can sort of check the list to see if there's anything that might be setting them off, and you know, obviously if the same ingredient has the same effect another time, you can sort of keep an eye on it. It's so organised and so helpful. And these used to go on our fridge, and I would sort of like check them every now and again to see what he was eating. But yeah, I wanted to keep one, so I kept that one in here. And that's the last page. Nothing much on there really. That's that. So it's all full. She's I mean, okay, I didn't really fill all the pages at the end, to be honest, but she's completed as far as I'm concerned. And very satisfying to sort of squish and squeeze. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this video series, and if you have any questions about anything I've done or any comments, or if I've forgotten to put any links down the bottom, do shout, because sometimes I do forget to put the links down. And I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.